Alright, that super guy here. Just want to talk to you guys for a few minutes about what it actually takes to get rid of this old stock intake manifold going over the top of the motor for you 7M guys. This is only for the 7M GTE guys. So all you 2J fans, don't blow your load. This doesn't have anything to do with you. So this is the stock intake manifold, alright? Now, here is one me and my buddy built. Cut up the stock linkage a little bit. This spring here used to be hooked a little bit over here, and then underneath it was a little dash pot, and it has like a little spring, and it keeps tension on it. But it was so 80s and old, it didn't even work. So I cut it out of the way, re-engineered the spring. And you can do this with any of the, if you're going to front face any of the intake manifolds. You can keep the stock stuff Toyota gave you. Okay? Now, I'm going to get clowned a little bit for the back because I did this. This isn't the final draft of it. This is just to get it in the car and get it running. I had a piece of angle iron in the shop. We cut it up. We cut the stock linkage up that goes over the top of the motor and just re-engineered it. Made sure it had the height to clear my vacuum lines that I reinstalled. I didn't want to put one in the back because I wanted air to kind of flow off the back into the back cylinder. So I chose to put the vacuum lines here. So hopefully I don't rob that back cylinder of air. That was just my way of thinking. Whether it works or not, who the hell knows. But that's the way I was thinking with it. So there's a bar I bought to have and threaded and hit the stock parameters for the exact linkage Toyota gave you in 1987. So you don't have to spend a lot of money there to make a front-facing intake manifold. And then you just go off the intake manifold bolts, get slightly longer bolts, maybe get some washers or get some nuts that won't back out on you, and rock with it. I think we got maybe $300, $350 in this intake manifold after sending it to a shop and getting it welded. And all I did was cut up a non-turbo GE, because they're the exact same, and slap it on there. Now what does it take to do this? Now you have to ditch the exhaust recirculation. So people put a plate here, but it keeps a lot of heat in this back cylinder, and it stays back here, and it warms that back cylinder up. So what you're supposed to do is get an EGR Blockoff plate, which mine is in the mail. It'll be coming here in a few days. And it just blocks the exhaust side off so it doesn't travel and get the head hot and get this back cylinder hot. So you need to do that if you get an aftermarket intake manifold. There's a lot that goes into this. It's not just you buy it and it's going to work. Cool other thing, or a stupid other thing the 80s did was they would run coolant through their intake manifold, and basically the only reason I could see this working, period, is if you lived in a really cold country. I live in Texas, so I'm never ever going to need to have my intake temps at a certain constant temp, because once you hit your car up to a certain, your oil and your water temps are pretty much paralleled with one another. So this probably helps stabilize the car in really, really cold weather. I live in Texas. It's cold for 2 weeks here. Out of the fucking year, it feels like. So I don't need that. So you have to also reroute the lines. So now the lines that did bang in there go from here, and then you just horseshoe them to the other side here. But you have to put basically a cul-de-sac or a horseshoe on it so it can go from one side to the other. That you have to do so you can keep the coolant cycling properly. And then there's vacuum lines you have to take into consideration. The one for the brake booster in the back, one main one for this side, hitting this intake manifold and hitting it before the turbo on the intake side. But that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And then you have to go get one of these, which is even a little bit more costly. So you're in about $300 to $400 with the intake manifold, depending on who you know, or how you can acquire one and make one. If you're a welder, you can probably get it for cheaper than that. You have to buy this from Drift Motion, unless you plan on making that and just spending a day in the shop and figuring out all the dimensions. That's cool too. Didn't have time to do that. But it's going to cost about $500 or $600, maybe $500, depending on your budget to put a front-facing intake manifold on. And this is the intake, the intercooler I chose to go with. The boost pipes are back here. R154. Cube shifter just got in the mail. And then the boost pipes to run all welded, no couplers. Each side to each side to run a 2JZ style intake manifold. I'm not going to be able to say until I get the parts in the car if how much performance has actually changed. I assume it's going to do quite a bit differently, but I did it for aesthetics look. I mean, I really have always liked the 2JZ, but I was too stubborn to get one and too broke to get one. And I know to do the swap is pretty arduous. You got to spend about $3,000 on the motor, and then they send it auto trans with you. You're not going to get a decent ECU with it, so then you're going to have to chase an ECU down, figure out a way to get some money off the auto trans that you're not going to keep. Or you can just hopefully find someone that's selling the motor and the ECU and the harness outright. But good luck, because everybody and their mom wants 2JZ. So this was my kind of my leg brace until I can stuff a 2JZ in here and see what kind of power we can actually get out of the 7M GTE that everybody makes fun of. Oh, another thing. You're going to have to cut holes in the body and put the battery somewhere else so you can run the boost pipes. Unless you're going to run the boost pipes straight down and then run it right before the alternator with that alternator bracket I showed you guys. But yeah, it's not cheap to play, basically. We chose to put the battery behind the driver. It's just smarter that way. I don't weigh that damn much, so 200 and whatever the battery weighs isn't that bad. But that's it, guys. Super Guy signing off. Just tell you what it's going to take to get you a 2JZ intake manifold in a 7M GTE and kind of give you guys prices, what it actually takes to get one in there. Like I said, if you're a welder, you can probably get one in for maybe $300-400. But it's still going to cost you to move the battery and do some block-off plates. And that's about it. Keep drifting, guys. Super Guy.